Hi, I'm Nikki Stiles. This is my reading log about Coyote Moon by Maria Gianferrari. The illustrator is Bagram Abatuin, and it was published by Roaring Book Press in 2016. It's got 32 pages. This book is a fiction picture book, but it kind of rides the line between fiction and between prose and poetry. It's about a coyote who wakes up from her den and goes off at sunset and goes off to search for food for herself and her pups. She wanders through a town. First she finds a mouse, tries to pounce on it, but it gets away. Then she catches the scent of some geese and she follows them, tries to pounce on them, but they kind of dive back and attack her. And then she finds a rabbit, and she gives chase, but the rabbit outruns her. So it's almost the end of the night, and she still hasn't found food. And she finally finds a turkey in the near the library, and manages to catch it. As she calls out kind of to her pups to tell them that she found food, and a girl in a nearby window peeks out at her just in time to see her take the turkey and go back to her pups. They all eat, and with full bellies they go back to sleep until the next night. The text of this book is very poetic. It's really a narrative, but it has a lot of features of poetry. There's some alliteration, like the line, "She slinks silent in the shadows." There's a lot of very descriptive imagery. The text has kind of a crispness of it that really emphasizes the way that she's hunting very stealthily. There's also an eeriness to the story. In the den is in a cemetery, so she's padding past the graves as she leaves. It has the line, "She's as quiet as a ghost." The first time she pounces, her eyes are bright yellow and very eerie looking. She's got very sharp teeth. And because it takes place at night, all the illustrations are very dark and shadowy. So it's got kind of a little bit of a mild scariness to it. Some of the themes are vulnerability for herself, her pups, and her prey, and circle of life. It's a really good way to show the circle of life to young children without it being too gory or anything. She has to kill animals, but it's to keep herself and her pups alive. So it's kind of a good introduction to that. There's also 2 pages at the back of the book with facts about coyotes. There's territory, diet, how they communicate, things like that. So that'd be a good way to extend the reading for kids who are interested in coyotes. I think it's good for kids. Partly, I think it would appeal to a lot of kids who like kind of the darker themed books. And it, like I said, it shows the circle of life in an accurate but child-friendly way. It also kind of gives kids a little introduction to poetry without it being any kind of formal verse. The activity that I would do with it is to have, after reading the story, to have each kid pick an animal and research some aspect or something that they do, a feature about them. Like for the coyote, for example, it would be the way that they hunt. And once they've researched that aspect, they would kind of write their own narrative poem about it in a similar manner to the story. So they'd use some features like alliteration and imagery and rhyme and rhythm to evoke a kind of poetic feel in a nonfiction narrative. Okay, thanks.